Welcome back. Ms. Conroy, will you tell the people what are you doing for them?
I'll do what I can. Not I on behalf of, and my team and the U.S. Mission in Pakistan on behalf of the American people. We've provided about $500 million so far in flood relief. This includes money that we've provided through UN organizations, through civil society, through international NGOs as well as local NGOs. And a great deal of early on military airlift as well, so that we could fly in supplies, we could help rescue people. And the majority of that money was used during the initial emergency phases and then the humanitarian assistance phase when people were still inundated by the floods and trying just to survive them. We're now moving into the next.
Well, the American U.S. Air Force played a major role by this, flying so many sorties.
All of our services.
All over Pakistan, rescuing them, bringing them to some better place.
We also had Army and Marine Corps and Navy airlift support for that, and some of those smaller lifts, some of the helicopters being able to get up into the mountains, as well as into places that had become islands, especially in northern Sindh, that were still surrounded by floodwater weeks after the flood started. And having that airlift made a huge difference in some people's lives. It really was a matter of life and death. And we don't have a total cost of what exactly that was. It was a mission that we took on because it was extremely important. We just wanted to get in there and help, and we didn't tally up what that would be. We've recently made a commitment that about 1/3 of this year's Kerry Lugar-Berman Act funding would be redirected to flood recovery. Because we think of flooding as having 3 stages: the emergency, the initial, then that sort of middle-level humanitarian assistance. But then people need to recover. They need to get their lives back, their homes back, their jobs back, their farms back. And so we're working now, again, with the government of Pakistan, as well as with smaller organizations, to redirect that money in order to help specifically the people who were victims of the floods.
Your Excellency, now you say that $500 million US has been earmarked for the flood-affected areas.
Of the Kerry Lugar bill.
Plus, from the Kerry Lugar bill assistance, 500 million more is being directed towards this end.
Right, that first...
Plus, all the expenditure of your Air Force, helicopters, this, that, to rescue people, that cost is not counted. It is on friendly basis.
That's correct. And my one exception is that first $500 million wasn't just allocated. It's already been dispersed and is in the field helping people.
So since you have been paying visits to the flood-affected areas from Miyawali to Reem-Yar, how many times did you pay a visit, and what did you see there, and what are conditions as of now, and has your assistance actually reached the needy and marooned, or just those who have suffered loss of a level which we cannot explain even? They lost everything. So can you tell the people your impressions and observations, and your assistance, how is it reaching them, or it has been siphoned away or stolen?
My impression is that even with all of the generous contributions from the people of Pakistan who were not in affected areas, as well as people living near the flood-affected areas who could help their neighbors, plus the assistance from America and the rest of the international community, that the losses caused by the flooding were so much greater than the resources that have been available to respond, that there is still a great deal of suffering that remains being caused by that original flooding. And so when I visited Multan twice and Muzaffargarh once to witness what was going on, there was a great deal of unmet need, and many people were really struggling. And I expect, it's been a few months since I've been back, I expect that there are people who are still suffering. That being said, our USAID officials, UN officials, civil society and NGO workers really are getting out into the field and doing everything that they can to try to make sure that their assistance goes to people who really need it.
No, have you some foolproof arrangement in place?
I'm not sure, Chaudhry Saab, that there's such a thing as a foolproof arrangement.
Any system in place?
There's systems.
To counter check, or a checklist, OPS, things like that.
I have to say, I was very impressed. The DCO in Multan, working with the private sector as well as with the civil society, had set up camps for people who'd been displaced by the flooding in public schools. And it appeared to me, they showed to us the systems, how they kept track of who was with them, where they were from, the efforts that they were making to reunite families in those very sad cases where parents and children had been separated. I have to say, I was very impressed at the efforts that they were making.
That looks to you very okay.
To me,
quite acceptable.
Yes. And they were quite honest that what they were showing us was what they considered a model camp, that it was the best case scenario. But
and
that was what they were all trying to work.
People from Muzaffargarh district came to Multan. Kota-Do, Muzaffargarh.
Right.
And this was the worst hit area for Punjab.
Yes. And we spoke with people who'd been displaced from Muzaffargarh, some of whom had had to move 4 or 5 times as the floodwaters moved.
Yes,
it was really, really rough on them.
They had 3-4 visits.
Yes. And so we did see another of the settlements or the camps that had been set up that were privately organized by the teachers of one of our Access English projects who had taken on the responsibility for organizing support for displaced people who had by themselves moved into a public elementary school looking for help. And these teachers and their families volunteered to operate the camp, to provide 2 cooked meals a day for them, to provide clothing.
They did everything.
They did everything. It was incredible. And so this is one where, there wasn't a formal monitoring system, but the people there were so committed and so sincere that they themselves were making sure that things went as they could.
Their deeds, in fact, inspired confidence of the donors.
Yes.
That they are the people who are doing the right job.
Yes.
Anyway, Your Excellency, Ms. Conroy, if I ask you, you see, you have seen all their farms, all their agricultural produce gone, their homes, huts, I've paid a visit to some of the areas that those were affected, and I saw the glow on the faces of the people, and they were full of confidence and hope that they will go back and restart their life. And U.S. and American assistance is being provided to build their homes or, again sow their farms, fields, wheat and vegetables and other crops, or what are you are only giving cash, or it is a distribution of cash, or you are giving them facilities? Can you point out some model of a village or some streets or roads, or here the U.S. government has built for the affected people in this area?
Yes, Chaudhry Saab, I can. Thank you for asking.
Very good.
We're very proud that the USAID office here at the Consulate General in Lahore was able to sign an agreement with the Punjab provincial education officials to provide missing facilities and damaged facilities at primary schools in the flood-affected areas. And this is something that...
And I'm told thousands of the schools.
I think it's about 5,000 schools that we're
which
planning
is
to rehabilitate.
A big number.
And so these are schools, they're public schools.
So you entered an agreement with the Punjab government education department
That's
to do
right.
what? To give them facilities, to rebuild the school and the facilities.
Right, to rebuild existing schools. The idea is that We're not going to just build schools and hope that they will somehow be staffed. There's schools that already have teachers, they already have students, but their conditions are, because of the floods or because of lack of budgets for maintenance, they're missing toilets, they're missing boundary walls, they're missing the sorts of things that make parents...
Even the buildings are almost collapsed.
Yep. And so it was really impressive to me that our USAID officials plus the provincial primary education officials, when they realized the impact that the flooding would have on their schools, they looked at a project that they were already negotiating and they revamped that project so that the hardest hit areas would get a portion of that. And I think that flexibility and that willingness to cooperate, to pull together information, and to create a good solution was
Ms. Conroy,
terrific.
how many schools out of these 5,000 schools, or all of them will be, rebuilt by the assistance of United States?
All 5,000 of the schools.
All?
The plan.
Most of them are full, all these 5,000?
Well, some of them won't require a complete rebuild. For some of the schools, they just need a new wall, or they need just
How many has so far been built?
So far, not.
It is in the process?
So far, it's in the process.
So anyway, we are going to ask you very specifically, here we talk that Pakistan over a period of time has suffered something like 35 billion US to 50 billion US losses because of terrorism and cross-border terrorism and terrorism in Pakistan. The foreign buyers have run away, the foreigners don't visit here. You know the reasons. There have been lawlessness, attacks, this thing and that. And generally the anti-America, anti-Europe sentiment here is very happy to spread around this thing that we have suffered so much and we are getting too little. How do you justify this? Because Pakistani, see price hike, lawlessness, unemployment, bad governance, all kind of problems multiplying. People attribute all this to this war on terror thing. And they think we are only being exploited and not getting enough to make our people live happily. So what is your point of view on this? We will hear you after a short break.